I'm Kathy Young, President and CEO of the Tri-Valley Nonprofit Alliance, and I'm really glad you're here with us this morning at the banquet, especially this time of year. We know how crazy it is. Today's program, Stronger Side by Side, the transformative power of nonprofit collaboration. We all know the biggest challenges we face, and we don't want to face those challenges alone, and we don't need to face those challenges alone, and we can find partners that we can work with. So that's exactly what we're here to explore this morning. Before we dive in, I want to give a big thank you to Sandia National Laboratories for their generous ongoing support of TVNPA's community programs. Michelle's not here, but if she walks in, let's all clap for her. And tell her that we thanked her. And then, of course, thank you for taking your time. So I'm going to introduce our speaker, Melanie Sadek, the CEO of Valley Humane. Melanie is a values-driven leader who spent more than 14 years expanding Valley Humane's impact and is widely known for her collaborative spirit, bringing people and organizations together to solve complex challenges and drive meaningful change. Please help me welcome Melanie.
Thank you. Put my water bottle down. All right, well, I like the energy in the room. I am not somebody who likes to just talk at people. I want some engagement. I want us to feel like we're a team, that we're learning from each other. I feel like some of the things I'm going to say are things that everybody already knows, and so it's more impactful when we're learning as a team versus me just onto you. So, Melanie Sadek, let me get this figured out. You know what? Sometimes you don't know that you need glasses until you get up in front of a room. So just to give you an idea of who I am, I've been with Valley Humane Society for 14 years now. Before that, I owned a small business in downtown Pleasanton, Murphy's Paw. And before that, I was the manager of the traffic safety department for AAA. So we covered Northern California, Utah, and Nevada. That's how I know Moni, because he was a police officer and he was one of my students.
He used to throw things at me.
Because he was sleeping in class. Tootsie Rolls, to be specific. So I think for my professional career, the best thing that happened was getting that job at AAA as a start of a career, because we are a nonprofit, but for us as a nonprofit, we were more of a funder, so we had to look for community collaborations for us to have an impact. And so that was really important in my career, and it started me kind of just thinking that when we work together, we can make a much larger difference than any of us on our own. So if I remember, I'm going to tell you a few stories about things that happened at AAA that really helped me kind of cement this idea, and then even what happened when I moved to downtown Pleasanton as a small business owner, and then beyond. I just want to mention too, because I'm going to talk about legislation. So I'm the chair of the California Animal Welfare Association's Legislative Committee. You can't work in Sacramento and advocate without collaboration. Like if you're just an individual going in trying to make an impact, it's pretty impossible. I don't want to say that individuals can't make an impact, but it's really much harder when you're trying to do it on your own. And so a lot of collaboration has to happen to actually make positive things work. And so I will say that maybe that's the one good thing about engaging with government is that it forces collaboration. So that's a nice thing. Oops, this is a very sensitive machine.
Melanie, did they plan to have the dog behind you?
I know. Yeah, it's Legos. I'm not going to touch it. I won't touch it. But it's Legos. Okay, so I just want to tell you really quickly, not really about who Valley Humane is. We're an animal welfare organization, but more important for me is that sometimes I've been in presentations where people will say, well, I can't do that, or you can do it because you're larger than me. And I just want you to know, when I started at Valley Humane Society, we had 3 full-time employees, I think 2 part-time employees, $30,000 in the bank, and we were going out of business. And so the phases of nonprofit life, I want to say, I think I've been in almost all of them. And so don't get weighed down on why you can't do something, because anything that I'm saying, anyone can do it. It's not because of a size. And I'm hoping I can illustrate that more, especially when it comes to legislation and Valley Humane. All right, so collaboration, why does it work? I believe regardless of where you are in the nonprofit world, all of us have a relationship with each other. We can touch each other in some way. We may not all be aligned, but we have some really great examples of partnerships going on currently in our own community. I know for me, so in animal welfare, there are over 200 nonprofit animal welfare organizations in Alameda and Contra Costa County. There are well over 4,000 in the state of California. And we collectively cannot stop our homeless animal population crisis. So I really believe none of us on our own can solve the problems or impact the area that we're trying to impact. We just are not capable of it. So we only can really make sizable impact when we work together. And so seeing each other as competition is not effective. It doesn't mean that your internal insides don't have the right to feel a little threatened or feel like somebody's competing. Give yourself some grace, but ultimately nobody wins in a competitive environment, especially when you're talking about nonprofits. And so all of us are connected, we're not siloed, and when we work together, we can strengthen our entire community. And I think it's such a benefit. We are a well-populated Tri-Valley area, but our needs are not as great as other areas. And when we work together, I really feel like so much of what we do is solvable if we were really collaborating more closely. So many of the people that we impact are also being touched by multiple organizations, and maybe we don't even know about it. And so I want to say this now because I'm looking at Chris. My background is in health and human science, or health and human services, in my entire career with the exception of Murphy's Paw, even what we do at Valley Humane. So if you're in the arts or you're in any kind of schools, all of it, I just want to apologize up front if most of my examples aren't applicable to you necessarily, but then I might call on Chris and make him share something. Okay. This is the problem when you sit in the front row. Okay, so when we work together, we can be more strategic. We can increase our impact. We can share the workload. And also, I think we can specialize in the area that we are experts in. And so I will give you an example. We have Animeals, which is delivering or providing pet food to people who are struggling with food insecurity. And so it doesn't make sense that another nonprofit has a pet food pantry if their expertise is in feeding humans. Why not partner with Valley Humane and get that food so that you're not trying to build out a pantry and ask for pet food donations? It's just not your area of expertise. So we should talk, can we bridge that gap for you? And then would it make sense that I'm trying to help people struggling with food insecurity so they don't have to give up their animals? So now I'm gonna start a human food distribution system? No. So we have connections in ways that we can be experts in our area and then collaborate and be really good at what we are doing so that we don't then dilute the other work that we're involved in. Plus, funders love collaboration. So most of you already know if you want city grants, if you, I just listened, Three Valleys Community Foundation had a podcast and John Muir's foundation was on, and they said they were shocked at how many nonprofits are serving the same communities. They have the same or similar missions, and they are not working together. And so their big push is for them to start communicating, start working together. They can multiply their impact, and they're more likely to get funding from John Muir because they're doing it. So funding is another opportunity for collaboration. Any questions? Okay, I have a question for all of you. Can we control what nonprofits form in our community? No. That's like saying we don't want a business in town. Can we control what their mission is? No. Can we control whether or not what they're about to do maybe interrupts with something that we're doing? No. So this whole presentation is not about what other nonprofits can do or for-profits or anybody. It's really about what we can do as individuals and what we can control. And so the number one reason in animal welfare that new nonprofits get formed, does anyone want to guess? Is it because there's a huge need? No, it's because a volunteer got super irritated and then went out and said, I can do it on my own, and then they create a new nonprofit. And that's why we have so many animal welfare nonprofits. And so it's just even more reason to even collaborate with our volunteers and the people that are supporting us so that we're all on the same team together. Everyone should have a say. It doesn't mean they get their way. That's a nugget. Take it. Okay, so collaboration is a partnership. Everyone should benefit. If only one person is benefiting, then it's more like a vendor agreement. It's not really a partnership. And so we need to make sure that we have mutually beneficial partnerships with people. And you can partner with lots of people. It doesn't have to be just another nonprofit that's similar to yours. Chris and I have talked about, like, should we do, I don't know, next time they have an animal show here, or is there an art display that's animal related? Maybe we do adoptions out front. I mean, there are ways that all of us can be supporting each other and then lifting up the work that we're doing. I'm trying to decide whether I want to tell you this story now. So, when I was at AAA, I just absolutely love this. So part of my job, before I became the manager, I'm an expert in occupant protection. So if you want to pivot and just do a whole presentation right now about what happens in a crash, I'm all game. I can blow your mind, but I won't do that. So my job was really, part of what we wanted to do was impact migrant farm workers. So we have a whole group of people coming into the United States from another country, a country that had different safety standards, different requirements, deeply religious in a lot of ways. So a lot of these families would come in. The moms would hold their babies in the car because that was the safest way. Like, their loving arms were the best way to transport a baby. And in California, that's illegal. And many people would judge them to say, why don't they love their kid? Well, if you come into a different culture, and that culture has different standards, we have to be kind and take the time to talk to people and educate them. So I was tasked with getting car seats into the hands of migrant workers, and not only getting them in their hands, but teaching them how to use it and then making them feel good about using it. So how do I do that? I called Migrant Head Start. I didn't decide to spend months and months and months going into these communities, trying to figure out how to get them to trust me, trying to build relationships. I found another nonprofit that was deeply rooted in the community, very well trusted, and we did an entire car seat event and got car seats in the hands, and we did it in their language, which to this day, if I could just sleep on like a dictionary of Spanish and just absorb, I would love to speak Spanish. I have tried. Horrible. I can barely speak English. So I'll just tell you our failure, because I think failure is important. We showed up to do this event. I think we were installing like 50 car seats. I had law enforcement that were trained as National Highway Traffic Safety Administration Child Passenger Safety Technician instructors. They all show up. They're in their, their police vehicles, wearing their garb, and no one came to an appointment. It's like, oh, right? Duh. So we rescheduled. We asked all the PD if they could please show up not wearing any of their stuff. Could they drive vehicles that were not police, that were unmarked? And if they had to, could they just park in another spot? And then everyone showed up. And so there was if you get involved in child passenger safety, there was like a deep feeling that this was really about supporting families and children. This was not about enforcement. The only time we ever had in that situation an enforcement was a 12-year-old that drove like a 16-passenger bus to get car seats installed, and they just could not let that child drive away, so they just called an adult to come and drive the car away. Yes, but it was, and then not only did that collaboration involve Migrant Head Start, but look at all the different police departments I had to call on to come out and support us to do that great work. And so that was a good foundation for me as far as what it looks like to really partner for great outcomes. And so with that, like, it's a perfect example. I had to partner with so many different groups. We're looking at government, other nonprofits, and so on. And so I'm trying to, I'm losing my mind. I'm going to just, alignment is key. So you don't want to do something that doesn't align with what you're trying to do. And I'll just, this is kind of a lame example, but Valley Humane got called. There was a new kind of like wood shop, not like a wood shop, but like wooden furniture company opening in Dublin. And they called to ask if we would partner with them on their grand opening to do adoptions. And to me, that just was not good alignment. Like, is that a partnership, or am I just a ploy to get people to come into their shop? So we just said that wasn't a good fit for us because it wasn't going to be mutually beneficial. There was no one's going to the furniture store to adopt an animal. And so if they really wanted that, they should just hire a petting zoo. Sorry. I'm being saucy. And so what do we have to gain? So we're talking about what we have to lose. So what do we have to gain? And so brand awareness. When we hitch our wagon to another brand, we're benefiting from their, what do I want to say, supporters and people who follow them. Now, does that mean that I'm somehow giving up the possibility that now that I'm partnering, let's just say with another animal welfare group, that maybe my supporters are going to start supporting them? No, it's highly unlikely. If anything, it will make your supporters feel even better that they see that you're partnering with others. And guess what? Maybe they will support them. Maybe they'll say, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that, Open Heart was so amazing. I'm going to start supporting them as well. And so there's no competition. People that give to multiple organizations. They don't just give to you. So you can save money, you can get that joint funding, you can get more community support. And for me, I think it's important in a good collaboration, everyone's benefiting, but it's good to know how you win and it's good to know how someone else is winning. So why do they want to partner with you? Are you going to bring in an audience that they've never seen before? Are you going to bring in something that better, supports their community? And so understanding how they benefit from partnering with you can also provide you a little bit of leverage so that you understand what you need out of the equation. And I'll give you an example in a minute. Oh my gosh, Kathy.
I know, I use the computer all the time. Used to be calling me names.
It's got a keypad thing, and if your hand just touches it, it'll wipe you out. Thank you. Let's see. And then you want to make sure you have a good collaborator. I will talk about what a good collaborator is. And so anyone who's been to a brand presentation with me, you will know that your brand, in my opinion, is the most valuable thing that any company, for-profit or non-profit, has. A brand is how you make people feel when they call your organization, when they look at your website, when they engage with your team. Like, how do you make them feel? And so if Valley Humane was all of a sudden going to partner with the rodeo parade, let's say we decided to have a float, that would be a bad brand connection. Even though we don't deal with cattle or rodeos or anything, because we're in animal welfare, if we participated in that parade, it would be a bad connection for Valley Humane. So we would not do that. And so you want to make sure that whoever you partner with really feels like a solid person to be representing. Because you, especially in this day and age, like any association can take you down. Anybody who had any relationship with somebody during the Me Too movement was like, you're a bad person. And so again, it's just in this day and age where everyone has access to everything, making sure that you really want to partner with that brand is going to be important because you don't want them to take you down. You are hitching your wagon. I say that a lot at work. You're hitching your wagon to them, which can be a good thing. Like, look, I'm just going to pick on City Serve and Open Heart. Why would Valley Humane not want to hitch our wagon to them? They're so well respected in our community. They do nothing but lift Valley Humane up while we're providing services to them. Like, these are good brands for me to be a part of. That's why I'm taking advantage of you guys. Valley Humane, some of the things that are important to us is we don't want to partner with anybody who elevates themselves by putting other people down. And so in our world, that could be a really amazing animal rescue group that's doing great work, but if you go to their social media page, all they're doing is telling you how the government shelters are horrible, they're about to kill animals. They're just, or they're even like sadvertising is on here. Sadvertising is a big thing in animal welfare. They're making up stories about the animals. They're making up narratives. They're saying this animal, was burned, and most of the time we don't know any of this. And so a lot of times when you're reading these stories, they're just assuming the worst, which then creates fear, and then people are donating. And so our brand and our value system, that lacks integrity for us, so we don't want to be a part of that kind of collaboration. So I like this because I just listened to a whole thing on Target and Isaac Mizrahi. So Target, a long time ago, the CEO was trying to figure out some strategies on how to make their organization, their company, more successful, and how do they stand out up against like a Walmart, a big store that's providing similar services. How do they elevate themselves? So what they decided was that they needed to advance their clothing line. Now they could have just decided to try to create some really awesome clothes, but that would be a pretty big uphill battle. So they went to Isaac Mizrahi and said, would you collaborate with us? You're very famous, most people can't afford your clothing, but would you be willing to provide a clothing brand for Target, exclusively for Target, that would introduce this, elevated style to people that are just like us, like everyday people? And so he said yes, and it ended up being one of the best decisions for Target, and honestly, Isaac Mizrahi is still associated with them. Now, I'm not saying the Target today is the same, so don't. Want to make sure it's clear. They've got lots of issues. But this is a really good example of collaboration in the for-profit world, and this actually led to Target doing this over and over again, creating lines with famous people that were affordable, making people feel kind of fancy without having to have the price tag. So then they got this nickname of Target, which was created by their customers, not by them. And so it really was great. Now, who took the biggest risk in this relationship? The designer. Like, gosh, can you imagine? Like, I am such a high quality, high priced item. Like, what am I doing if I now associate with this kind of brand? And it really, was a huge risk, but it paid off, and they both benefited quite a bit. So it's a good example in the for-profit world of solid collaboration. So my buddies are here. I'm just going to highlight one of our local collaborations because that was for-profit, but now let's talk about what's happening here. So you have CityServe, and you have Open Heart, which really, as a past Lutheran pastor, seems appropriate. And then Goodness Village, that's not here. And so these are three organizations that in some ways have very similar missions, and they work really closely together. They are looking at our most at-risk community members and trying to figure out how collectively they can provide the best resources. So CityServe is really, I think, the closest thing, if not the only thing we have as far as a safety net, really like grabbing onto individuals and holding them tight, and then figuring out all the different nonprofits and resources that they connect individuals to for the greatest outcome. And then you have John, who's providing food. He's providing food, he's providing shelter. And so with the refuge, he has beds that are assigned just so that nonprofits like CityServe, if they have somebody who really needs a bed, they can be able to fit them in. And so those are great partnerships. Now, where does Valley Humane come in? I'm hitching my wagon to them. And I proudly talk about them at my gala. I proudly talk about them anywhere, because why wouldn't I? They're amazing, not just because I like them, but they do really great work. And so Valley Humane, I'm like, hey, not only have we been partnering with Open Heart Kitchen for years to provide pet food to at-risk people or people struggling with food insecurity, because if you don't give them pet food, they will use the food from Open Heart to feed their animals. They are not going to not feed their animals. And if they decide they have to give them up, well, now that's just impacting our sheltering system with an animal that's totally loved, that doesn't deserve to be in a shelter. So let's make sure that we can give them food. But I've always wanted to do a field vet program. And what we do is we have a veterinarian, we have a surgery center, we've got 3 veterinarians. But one specific vet who really loves going out and working in the field. And so we've partnered with Goodness Village, City Serve, Open Heart to connect with our most at-risk community members who also have animals. And then we provide free vet care for them. So we're doing annual vaccinations, we'll microchip them, we'll pay for their spay and neuter, we'll do it. If at the time of the exam our vet sees anything that needs to be addressed, we will cover it. So if it's, an eye enucleation, a removal of a soft tumor, a leg that needs to be removed, we've got at Goodness Village somebody that has a dog that was hit by a car. We did x-rays just so we could give them an idea of how bad kind of that injury is and how can they give this dog the most comfortable life. And so we're doing that fully covered by our donors. But I could just say, well, I'm going to just go out and figure out who the most at-risk community members are and then give them. If I did that, everybody would say they were at risk. And so now I don't have to screen anybody. I don't have to justify my partnership with them. I know that if they're receiving services from trusted nonprofits, that we're reaching the most vulnerable people in our community. So I love that program. My vet's going to kill me. But if anybody is working in that community, like even going out and doing encampment visits, we will not go into the encampment, but we will put a tent out and work with a partner that has a relationship so that we can get people, people's pets, even in encampments, are super loved. Very loved. And there becomes this deep fear that they can't see a vet because something might be wrong and they're afraid they're going to have their animal taken from them for animal abuse. And so we are not going to do that. We are going to address the issue and let somebody who loves their animal get the best animal they can have. See how I turned that into all about me? So what does a good collaboration mean? You want to consider your goals, and I am not perfect, and I have failed quite a bit, and I'm gonna give you an example of one of my failures. But if you can, think about what you really want to get out of a relationship with somebody. What are your goals? Why are you doing this? So like with the partnership with Open Heart and City Serve, what I want to get out of it is I want to be able to hitch my wagon to 2 amazing nonprofits. I want to work with people I trust, who I know are serving the most at risk and give me the easiest access. My goal is to be able to help people and their animals, and they help me do that, so it works really well. And so we also have similar value systems. We've got similar missions. You don't want to partner with somebody who, again, doesn't align with you. I talked about that. If your value system is different, one of Valley Humane's values is collaboration. So it's important to us. Okay, if you've never done it, just reach out and call somebody. Say, hey, Chris, we've talked about it, we haven't done it, let's coordinate something for 2026. Or maybe you're new and your nonprofit has had this like rivalry for years with another nonprofit. I would call them and just say, how can we work together? Sometimes that's the greatest change that happens when new leadership comes in, is that olive branches are extended and partnerships develop. So when I became the chair of the California Animal Welfare Association's Ledge Committee, I had already been on that committee for 3 years. I was told that multiple groups were evil and that we shouldn't talk to them at all. In Sacramento, we were against each other. So like you would have the Humane Society of the United States supporting legislation, and then the California Animal Welfare Association would oppose it. Then ASPCA would come in and they would support it, and then someone else would. And so the legislators had no idea, like, who is right, who is wrong, what are we doing? So the first thing I did, I scheduled calls with all those evil people. And I'm like, I'm gonna just figure out who these people are, and really what we have completely changed the way we deal with legislation around animal welfare in California because of it. one group, Social Compassion and Legislation. That first phone call, she told me that our organization didn't matter, no one trusted us, and that we didn't really have any footing in Sacramento. So that was just a challenge. And so today, we work really closely together, and we don't always agree, but we do work collaboratively to figure out how we can come to some agreement. And sometimes I'll just say, don't even ask us, don't ask us. Because if I bring it to the committee, they're gonna want to oppose it, so let's just be silent on this. So I'm supporting them while not like getting my group involved. So collaboration and working even with people that you think you can't work with is important. And everything in life, we don't have to always like people, but we should still be able to work with them. And then I put this in about relationships, because isn't relationships what we do? It's like our whole life is knowing people. That's why everyone goes to Tri-Valley Nonprofit Alliance events. Like, it's just networking, and it's a way to get to know each other. And you don't get invited to a party if no one knows who you are. And so you want to be part of that kind of network. And sometimes someone will say to me, I don't understand, my nonprofit specializes in this. Why didn't they ask me to be a part of it? Well, do they even know who you are? Well, no. Well, that's why you didn't get invited. And so you have to have relationships if you want people to include you, or if you want to reach out and get included. Yes. So you want to establish expectations. Now, I'm going to tell you, most of the time, none of this happens at Valley Humane. It's just the truth, but it can happen even in your head. So you want to make sure you understand what are the expectations of what we're going to do together. And the more that we can be clear about what we expect of each other, the less likely it is that we're going to get upset with each other. And so sometimes we go into a relationship assuming that things are going to work a certain way, and then we're super disappointed when it didn't work that way, yet we never set any ground rules around what we really expected of each other. And so if you can do this, it can actually make the relationship so much stronger. So establish your expectations, make sure you know what role and responsibility you have and what others are doing so that you can keep everybody on track. And then if there's a conflict, how does the conflict get resolved? Sometimes we just stew on things and we let that cup start to get overflowed with frustration because we don't call something out when it happens, and then we really ruin the opportunity to collaborate in the future when in fact something could have probably been resolved pretty easily. And then debrief. We do this. We debrief all the time. Debrief is super important because that's how we get better. And sometimes we're brutal in our debrief. So if anyone's been to our gala, the gala committee, brutal at the end. And no one wants to talk about what went well. Everyone wants to just jump in and talk about everything that could be better. And in a way, that's awesome because of that, we actually get better every single year because we address the problems and then we figure out solutions for the next year so it doesn't happen again. So debriefing is very, very important. Fair isn't equal. So do I have a good example? So if I'm going to partner with 10X Genomics, so they called us and asked us if we would collaborate on their employee fair, like their wellness fair. Yes, of course. Now, in my head, what do I want to get out of that partnership? Am I going to have animals adopted? No. I'm going to bring my pet therapy teams and provide some kind of HR, mental health support, but mostly it's an amazing brand to connect my brand to. But am I going to get mentioned in their press release? No. Fair is not equal, right? I can't, they're so big compared to Valley Humane, it would be unrealistic for me to think that I'm going to get equal billing with some group that's putting all the investment in and doing all the work. And so you have to measure what that, so again, looking what you have as an expectation, getting a Chevron or someone like that to give you equal billing, even if they're doing great work, is highly unlikely because their commitment to what's happening is probably far larger than yours. And so even if you look at nonprofits, if I'm going to go and join a giant nonprofit in animal welfare and they're doing all the work, even though it is a collaboration, I would expect that they would get more credit than me. and I can't, I'm not supposed to get my feelings hurt. I love that when everyone tells you how you're supposed to feel, but you can get your feelings hurt, just keep it inside. Or find someone that's safe on your team and tell them. And so we talk about this at work, like what does success mean for that? And so sometimes the team at Valley Humane might get frustrated that we do a 10X genomics event, because it's like, well, we're not adopting, what are we getting out of it? But it's really, the goal for that event is more about exposure, making sure that the people that work there see the benefit of the work that we're doing. It's not really about fundraising, it's just really relationship building. And so if that's my expectation and that's what we get out of it, then it was a win for us. We got everything that we wanted. Do you guys have any questions?
I do.
Good.
Has there recently been a situation when you've partnered with Chevron or someone like that where you don't get much out of it, like face value, but then perhaps later on they'll make a donation or somehow support you in another way?
I always don't like it that these are recorded. I feel like I could tell you so much more.
Never mind. We'll scratch that. We'll talk later.
Well, so this is in 2015. Valley Humane was contacted by an animation studio. NDAs were signed, and to provide pet-assisted therapy once a month. And so we've been doing that, and it's been really fun for the handlers and all of this. So jump all the way to today, we have to reevaluate that relationship because we really aren't getting anything out of it. We're not allowed to talk about it. The teams are not allowed to do there's so many rules. And really, who's paying for those? Because you're not getting the financial reward. And so I would definitely, again, if you want to introduce yourself to an organization and you feel like that's what you're going to get out of it, great. But if you're doing it because you think one day they're going to give you money, I just can't promise that they will. And I will say that I did that. I thought, we're hitching our wagon to this amazing brand. Like, oh my gosh. But if we can't talk about it, in all the time we've been doing it, their total giving to us is $3,500. At 11 years?
It's $5 a year.
Yeah. So it has not, so it's kind of like, and then who's paying for those visits? Is it my donors now or backing a for-profit entity for them to get really human resource support? So that's my best example of now we're reevaluating that relationship. Should we even be doing this? Like, where is the reward in this relationship? Yes?
Just when they call, you say, oh, that would be great, and here is my fee schedule for how many hours you want us to come do that for you.
Well, so we have to stay away from charging for our pet therapy services.
Even if it's a spot, like...
They can give us a donation, like they could say, we'd love to support, but
it's a sponsorship.
Yeah, we're creating a partnership program right now for a lot of the for-profits that we have been providing services to for years. In the beginning, it was great exposure. Like, we really loved the fact that we got to be involved with all these amazing brands, but now it's just turned into something that's somewhat out of control. And so yes, it's like, how do we collaborate where both parties are benefiting? Because currently that's not the case. So this is why I'm telling you all of our failures, because really no one's perfect. And when you fail, you get to grow, and then I get to tell you how I screwed up, so maybe you guys won't. All right, in the debrief, we already talked about this. I want to give you a good example here. Okay, so this is one of my current examples. So Animal Advocacy Day. We go into Sacramento and we have this giant event, and people go into the legislators' offices and they are pretty much lobbying for very specific bills. We're going into, I think, our 4th year doing this. The first year, so just to give you an idea who's involved. So you've got San Francisco SPCA, San Diego Humane Society, 2 of the largest animal nonprofits that have shelters in the country. The Humane Society of the United States, which is now Humane World for Animals, ASPCA, Michelson Found Animals, which is a huge organization in Southern California, Best Friends, and the California Animal Welfare Association, a whole statewide organization, and Valley Humane. So, when we started, one of those larger groups said, we're going to carry the biggest load, so we're going to do most of the work. We had a couple of the other groups say, we'll help schedule all the appointments with the legislators' offices. Now we're talking like 70 people coming in, so that's a big load. Another nonprofit said, we'll do all the graphic work. And so there was some sharing, but one nonprofit did most of the work. And so when that event was over and we did the debrief, it was really recognized that they got most of the credit. So here you have all these groups that are involved, but do they deserve the credit? Yeah, they did most of the work. So the next year, it kind of worked the same way. More people got involved, it gained traction, it became bigger. Same issues occurred. The next year, we split the cost. So all of us said, it's not fair that one person is absorbing all of this, let's split the cost. So not only did we split the cost, but we said, let's have branding that's specific. So instead of everyone bringing their own banner, let's just create fully branded materials with everyone's logo. Because some of the people were close, so they could overpower the room with their own branding because they could just drive there. Other people were flying in from other parts of the country. They didn't have the same resources. The other thing we did is we said, and let's just have one table in the back of the room where all the materials can be. So instead of having one nonprofit that's nearby with tons of branding and a staff that can do that table, and others that didn't have the same opportunity, we just got rid of it. And in the end, it was definitely more collaborative, but it was more fair. So one nonprofit wasn't absorbing the majority of the work. It was definitely more equal. But at the end of the event, for me, I wanted to know, what is the goal? Like, what are we solving for? Because I would go into this event and I would be researching every legislator's office, see if they've ever authored animal welfare legislation, prepping the people that were going to have meetings, and then it's like, is that the goal? Can I get everyone to just tell me what they think their goal is? Is the goal to go into Sacramento and make an impact in all these offices to move legislation in the right direction? Or is this really about an opportunity to engage your supporters to come in and be part of the legislative process? And once we could just get everyone to identify what the goal was, which was to bring in supporters and make a difference, for me, that was a totally different area now. I'm like, okay, game on. And so now we have a whole strategy at Valley Humane about what this is going to look like when we go there in March. We are doing legislative presentations right now to give our supporters an idea of what bills have passed. We're doing it again on Saturday morning. And then if we get enough people interested in joining Valley Humane, we're going to get a bus. We're going to bus them all up, and we are going to have a good presence at that event. So one thing that I love is Valley Humane is like a $3.4 million organization. We are not big. But if you tell people you are not big, then you are not big. So never say you are small. You're telling people how to feel about you. You say you're small, then you're small. Don't say that. I like the finger came out on that one. So we, 3.4, are partnered with huge organizations. Nationwide, Valley Humane's logo is right there. What do we bring to the table? Like, why would they want to partner with Valley Humane? Why is our logo on here? Any guesses? Because I know what I'm talking about. This is an area of expertise for me, so I am actively involved, and so it doesn't matter how big you are. It doesn't, you can't see yourself as not being able to play. You just have to force yourself to be at the table. And so I, over the years, have forced myself to be at that table with paid lobbyists and people who know so much, and to make sure that Valley Humane was included. And so you should never see yourself as somebody who can't collaborate because you're not big enough. If you have something valuable to add, throw your name in there. Force yourself to the table and be part of something amazing. It doesn't really matter how big you are. You can make a big difference. With Advocacy Day, what I want to point out is because we didn't clearly have expectations, because we didn't really understand what each organization was going to look like, because we went into it not knowing kind of how we were going to be collaborative as far as representation the day of the event, it took 4 years for us to finally get to a place where maybe we're a little bit more equal. And I promise you, in year 5, we'll still be making adjustments. It's just the way that it works. And it doesn't bother me. I'm all in, whatever needs to happen. which brings me to failure to collaborate. Fear is a thief. I think we all know this, in my opinion, not representing Valley Humane. We are living in a country that is being led by just a lot of fear, like a lot of fear. And so when you're fearful, you're less likely to take risks and you can really hold yourself back. And so it's easy to create this thing in your head that you're a victim, that something has happened to you, so therefore you can put your walls up. But being a victim does not advance you as an organization or you as a person. So you need to look past that, and you have to assume positive intent. Most people, collaboration is a skill that they have to learn. I know some of us think that this is just something that you should know, but it's not. It is a skill. And I think being at AAA, I learned that when I went and opened Murphy's Paw in downtown Pleasanton. I was a rebel. The Downtown Association wasn't meeting the needs of the restaurants and the retail, so I created the, what did we call ourselves? The merchant group. And we created events that benefited both the restaurants and the stores. People came in and bought something at Murphy's Paw, they got a 20% off coupon to go across the street and eat at pastas, and vice versa. In the billfold, there was then a gift certificate or a 20% off coupon to go shop in stores. We did a scarecrow competition. We did all this stuff because it was during the recession and we needed to generate enough interest in downtown to bring people into our stores. The only way that worked was if we worked together. And then we partnered with the Pleasanton Partnership in Education. There was a big issue with school sizes. So I worked with the executive director at the time of that organization, and we did a big downtown carnival. All the stores did something fun. We had a dunk tank, and we raised $20,000 for that association to help our classroom sizes. So did the classroom thing and retail and downtown relate? Not really, but if our downtown stores could really bolster our school district and help our children, it was a really great outcome, and it made everyone feel good. So when we decide that we're going to be siloed and we're only going to focus on ourselves, we end up duplicating our work. We end up being very frustrated. We end up spending way too much money, and none of us really advance in that environment. And so you really want to make sure that you're collaborating. Yes?
Have there been any instances where you've had to have made you have to cut off collaborating with certain organizations?
Is this going to go in the independent?
I promise. She's like
So not directly, indirectly. So we, whenever we do, like when we did our grand opening for the surgery center, we brought other rescues in and they did adoption events in the parking lot. We did that for our grand reopening. We've just done it for a bunch of things. So we bring in these nonprofits because really, what does that do? We're trying to find homes for homeless animals, so come on board. But I found out something that was really against our values about one of the groups that we would normally be partnering with, and so they're just not going to get invited to come back again. And really, even at the surgery center, we partner with 35 rescues to do surgeries, and we have a huge demand for the service. I just don't want us to be providing services to organizations that are not doing the best work possible. And so my hope is, in all situations, is that when you do set some standards and parameters, that hopefully everyone rises to the occasion and become better, versus just saying, well, forget you, we won't work with you. So in a way, that's what kind of some power and leverage gives you, but I think it gives you an opportunity to lift other people up. So yes, but not confrontationally. So not like I don't like you anymore, you're out. That does not happen. So I want to just say energy flows where your attention goes. And if you're so focused on being in competition with somebody and you're not collaborating, you cannot grow. I see it over and over again. And then don't be a false collaborator. Like, I have a friend who calls me and tells me all the wonderful things, and it's like, why are you calling me? And it's just to tell me how great that person is and what they're doing. And it's like, this doesn't feel like collaboration. This just feels like competition. So I just don't play in that field. There are people that say really bad things about Valley Humane to other people. And you know what? That's okay. Because who does that look bad on?
Yeah.
It doesn't look bad for me. If they're going to say something bad, it reflects really poorly on them. And so it's just not a good place to be. And so you really want to focus your attention on building each other up, not tearing each other down, especially in an environment where people are really tearing people down. I think the nonprofits can come together and really model what we want for our own society and make people happy. Make people happy. Like right now, I think happiness is important, and we do work in really tough areas. And sometimes bad things are happening, but we don't need to drag people down. I think that the more we lift people up, the more we spread joy, the more that we make people feel good. Remember, your brand is about how you make people feel. People will support you if you're making them feel good. Those rescues that post nothing but horrible things, people, they stop supporting them or they stop following them because every dollar they give isn't moving the needle because the next story is just as bad or even worse. So sadness does not work. Maybe in the beginning, but not long term. And that's it. Wow. Yay, I'm good.